Hi guys, so I'm going to be going over the two slides that I made for the project, and it's probably going to be on a YouTube video just before this slide, if all goes well. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about the second and third chapters. The first chapter was likely already talked about, and in general, the second chapter specifically kind of strays away from the story of Cycle 1, and in fact, it opens up a real general commentary on racism, and not necessarily just racism, but this forgetfulness of important black people, and the idea that their images have been trampled on and kind of left in the dust. So each of the poems in Cycle 2 is concerned with this, what I said, this fading away of many prominent black figures. It touches on people such as Uncle Tom, Uncle Ben, the guy from the rice boxes, Stepin Fetchit, which I looked up and saw that he's a musician, a black musician who was very big in the 30s. Aunt Jemima it also talks about, and also buckwheat. So I'm just gonna read two poems. The first one being Uncle Tom in Heaven. So let's get right to that. Uncle Tom in Heaven is on page 27. I'll give you guys a second, I guess. Okay. My name is Mud. Let's get that out of the way first. I am not a child. I was made to believe that God kept notes, ran a tab on the blows, so many on one cheek, so many on the other. I watch another black man pour from a white woman's head. I fear he'll live the way I did, a brute, a flimsy ghost of an idea. Both of us groomed to go only so far. That was my duty. I'm well aware of what I've become, a name children use to separate themselves on a playground. It doesn't matter to know I'm someone else's lie. Any human can slip, and that's enough to make grown men worry about their accent, where their ambition might stray. It doesn't help anything to tell you I was built to be a hammer, a war cry. Like him, nobody knew me. But in my prime, I filled the streets, worried into the eardrum, scared up thoughts of laws and guns, how I would love not to be dubious. But I am a question whole races spend their time trying to answer. My author believed in God, and being denied the power to hate her, I watch another black man roam the land dull in his invented hide. Generally, this concerns itself with the forgetfulness of people in regards to Uncle Tom. I don't know if any of you have ever read the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, but I hear that it's very very poignant and very very emotional. But it's in the process of being forgotten, and that's why it's called Uncle Tom in Heaven, because he was never alive, but his caricature and his um, his impact on the black community is has died and is dying. So that's really the point of the first line. My name is Mud. Let's get that out of the way first. So um, there's that, and there's also the poem on page 32, Stepin Fetchit reads the paper. And so I'll give you guys a second. Okay. Not the dead actor, historically speaking, but the ghost of the scripts, the bumbling fake of an acrobat, the low-pitched anger someone mistook for stupid. This so-called bruiser rattling the streets heavy with children, I'd like to tell him what a thankless job it is to go along, to get along. All the nuances can and will be rubbed smooth, and by the time it's over, by the time you're dead and the people you thought you were doing this on behalf of are long forgotten, there's only an image left that they name you after, toothy, slow, worthy of a quick kick in the pants. I used to have bones, I'd tell him. It was a story that rubbed out my human walk. And so even these, though I do say they stray from the story, they reference back to it. They reference back to the story as a way of saying that these people are being forgotten. This story about this woman who made up uh, a story of a black man, you know, this story is getting much more attention than other stories of black suffering and of reasons why black people should have rights and should always be, you know, should always make sure that they're being treated fairly. And I believe that that's the real reason that these poems were written. They don't come, they stray from the main story, but they don't in a sense as well. They also take the story and they put it in a larger context, a more general context. So moving on to the next chapter. The next chapter, Cycle 3, is mainly concerned with continuing the story of Cycle 1, and it talks about the interrogation of Susan Smith and the made-up information of the supposed black man who killed her children. And it goes, it continues the idea that this black man is her, that uh, the pain she feels is his pain. The lies she says are his lies, and it's very poignant the way in which he combines both the black man and Susan Smith, saying many things like our suffering and such as that. Even though the black man doesn't exist, but he was used to as a scapegoat for Susan Smith. It shows that Susan Smith also doesn't only just make up details, but that the police officers encourage her to do so. So, I mean, this is extremely huge too. Today we have problems with police officers and African Americans, but back then it was even worse. And, to think that police officers would uh, perpetuate a fake story like this is outrageous and disgraceful. So, the first poem is Interrogation, and it is on page 42. And let's just give you guys a second. Okay, so let's go here. The children were fussy, Susan tells the FBI agent, so we strapped them in the back seat and drove off to go shopping at Kmart. How can a black man drive an old, beat-up Mazda in a southern town with two white kids in the back seat and never be seen? The agent would like an explanation. He binds our arm to the polygraph, but we swear we were in the parking lot in the hours before I officially arrive under the brute light of the mercury lamps. Who could have missed us, diving to find a bottle wedged under the back seat? Who didn't notice us as we walked the aisles, a cranky family among the other cranky families? He insists what we say is not what we mean. He tries to spike our heart. We say as evenly as we can. The children were twitchy bombs of sugar. First, we exhaust their eyes, then cruise the town like any family, bargaining for sleep. So, this just goes to show you how far she went with this. She endured a polygraph test to save her skin, and she went so far with this rather than just coming out and saying that she did it. But I guess sometimes she went so far that she just couldn't go back. So, yeah, I believe that's a very poignant poem and really speaks to the heart of the story. Next is going to be Press Conference on page 46. I'll give you a second. And this is my life now. I am a faint hum behind the sensation, the blur of doubt at the corner of the flashbulb. These are my names these days: hungry, senseless, man of little schooling, ninny, fraidy cat. If I had an opinion, I guess I would tell you all I'm tired. Days and days of near misses, almost snapping into focus, the in-between feeling of circling these streets a rumor. If I could, I'd let our wariness bite into the sheriff's ear. Susan steps to the mic. How do we feel? There's a crack in our voice. This, again, goes to show that she even held a press conference or participated in a press conference where she said, that all this was true, that all this happened. And I think that it's very, very important for us to realize that she continued this lie, you know, well after she would have been found out. This was, she almost, made it the truth for herself. And it's astounding how delusional one person can become. But it happened. It did. It was, um, one of the most shameful and disgraceful displays that we I've read about in American society and in the historical background of the country. But nonetheless, it is part of our country, and today we have to be very careful that we don't do it in not necessarily in a racial sense, but in a religious sense. I feel that in America now we have a tendency to start to blame things on other religions. I'm not going to name names, but I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, what I'm getting at here. I think that we've been very polarized, not any more so in um, blaming African Americans or um, those people or other races. I think we've now turned to different religions. Um, you know, uh, those same people that always find a way to blame other races have to come up with someone new now that blaming races is unacceptable. But they're all unacceptable. All these things are unacceptable. So thank you for your time. I just went through cycle 2 and 3 of Brutal Imagination. Um, very cool. The man Cornelius Eady, uh, very obviously a man very, very concerned with um, an African American's place in society, and I believe that very good collection of poems, and I would encourage you to all read the book. I wouldn't pick out one certain poem in particular. Reading each of these poems by themselves is not really great. I don't find each poem enjoyable, but I find the whole collection enjoyable because I think it all needs to go together. Because it's a story. It really is. But each poem is written with a cool different style. And some of them are short, some of them are long, some of them are dedicated, some of them have historical background. It's all very very varied and very interesting. So I would encourage you all to pick it up and give it a good look. Okay, thank you all, and signing out.